try that again. Right, as I said, I'll be checking the comments. So let me know if you can all hear me. And yeah, I was breaking up. Hopefully now we're okay. There's obviously a delay as well while I'm reading comments. Let's see if that is then okay. It is okay now. Hooray! There we go. So thank you first, all those of you who answered the Facebook poll. So if you've been on the Facebook group, there's a nice community of people on there. And thank you to all the people who answered the poll I put up. I was just saying, so what would you like to see in this session? Today, we're going to look at various engrave mode options, kind of template layout type things, because that was definitely what came up top in the poll this time. There were some other useful ideas as well in there, so I might use some of those for next time. But if you think it's useful, maybe I'll run a poll each time and see what the things are people want to talk about, whether that's new features or anything else. So because we'll be doing lots of kind of template and possibly engrave mode options and things like that, you will need Dorico Pro to follow these. So if anybody's using Dorico Elements, unfortunately, many of the things today you'll need the Pro version for. And in particular, this session, I suppose I should just say this session is using version 2.2 of Dorico, which was released at the end of November 2018. It's now, of course, December 2018, so nearly Christmas. I will try not to keep you too long so you can do that last-minute Christmas shopping. If you have your mulled wine ready and you're sitting comfortably, or if you don't know what frames and a frame chain is, then strap yourselves in. Let's go. So today I'm going to start just with, this is actually our blank film score template. So if you want to have a look at that one, then you can do. There was a couple of things initially actually just to do with staff labels that I wanted to show. A couple of the options are things you can just easily switch. And then another option where actually it requires a bit more manual fiddling at the moment, but I thought it might just be worth covering that as well. So to start off with, this is the default. So in setup mode, we've got all our instruments listed because they were already loaded from the template. And in write mode here, you can see we've got, for example, flute 1 and flute 2. And if you switch to engraving options, then you can have a look in the staff labels and scroll down here and you'll see that there's a group option here. So instead of flute 1, flute 2 for a label on each staff, you can group them between the staves here. So if I just press apply on that one, there you go. You can now see we've got the labels in the middle. There's also, I was sent an example graphic, or actually it was put on Facebook, and there were a few other things that were changed in the layout design of that. One of which actually was similar, but it was using in the brackets and braces option here. It was instead using a brace instead of a sub bracket. So if I apply that one for a second and move this out of the way, so now you can see a brace here instead. In fact, you can switch these, and I'll show you the two options as well. So if I should make this little dialog a little shorter, there we go. So here you can see the sub bracket option that we did have, and we've got the brace option here. There's also an option in again where we were before, which is in the staff labels. If these are all getting a bit too close, then you can say, actually, I'd like to move some of these, so maybe you'd like a bit more space for both of these items here. And if I apply that, then you can have a bit more space around some of these labels and numbers as well. So those are some of the kind of automatic options for labeling some of these instruments and other things you can do on those. There's also another option in layout options, which I'd forgotten about and should probably show you. So in staves and systems here, the option I'm going to use here is for the position of the instrument pitch in full staff labels. So example here, I've got clarinet in B flat because it says end. If I go to start here instead, and I need to just press apply, then it'll get a B flat clarinet instead of a clarinet in B flat. So you can switch those labels around as well if that matches the design better. And the reason for that, I'll just show you kind of again more for completeness. In the setup mode here, our clarinet player that we have says clarinet B flat 1. And also in here, when you do edit names, all it says is clarinet. Because the follow layout option is on here for show transposition, then we're getting B flat clarinet or clarinet in B flat, depending on which option you want, which label you wanted at that point. So there's kind of a mixture of a couple of things there. There was some engrave mode options for how they display. So is it going to be in the center or not? And then also these transposition options, which follow the layout options that you can set as well. Now, the other option that I wanted to show was a bit more of a manual option, or at least it is at the moment. So I'm going to show you this for again for completeness, really. And that was, if you can see here, we've got, for example, clarinet 1, 2, bassoon 1, 2, oboe 1, 2, and I want to do the same with the flute. So I've already done this for some of the other instruments, and I'll show you what I've done there. Now this is a more of a manual option, really, and as I said, I'm sure we can do this better in a version of Dorico later. But for today, somebody said, "How about how we do it today?" So I'm going to take my flute player here. I'm going to use the edit names dialog that I was using before. So here we've got the flute name and the flute name here. Oh, and all I'm going to do is say, I'm going to put in 1 and then 2 here. So I'll press return and done 2. And I'm going to do a manual hack here, which is to change the option here to, I'm going to say minus probably about 5 points, something like that. I'm going to do the same here so that the short name is also similar. Yep, it is a bit of a manual hack, but there you go. So now I've got flute 1, 2 here, and then when I get onto the next page, I've got flute 1, 2 here as well. So there are options there for for how you display them. I wouldn't say that I have seen some other ways of doing some of these, and like I said, maybe we need to add more options for some of these in the future. But just so you know, some options for how you can do some of those today. There was one other thing. Oh yes. Also, you'll notice here the oboe and the English horn, oboe 3, aren't. There's no bracket, no brace between these two here. Dorico will do a lot of those automatically if you want to, but at the moment these are actually different instruments, really. So it's thought, don't know how if it wants to do those. So I'm going to select both of these here, and in engrave mode, you can use these options here to insert sub brackets and braces. So you've got options here and down here, depending on which option you want. So you can add those in if you need them, if you want to group them that way. That's also what I've done actually to group all of the instrument bar lines together here as well. So if you want to change any of those, you can change those. And when you do make these changes, you get a bracket and bar line change flag signpost up here. So if you need to remove all of those, you can click on that and then just press delete to delete all the changes that you've made. So that was the first bit on some of those. And if you then want to use that, kind of set it at once, especially some of the manual fiddling of names I was doing, the best option then is to save this effectively as a template, a starter file. And I'll do this at the end as well, but you can then go to File, Import, and Import Flows, and you can import a flow from another project into this one to then get the changes that you've made applied. So instead of exporting all your styles, at least at the moment in Dorico 2.2, you can import another project in to the current project, and then you'll get lots of the options and the templates and things that you've set up already. So talking about templates, let's make some of these changes. So we have here, this is the basic template. I have already added in some information into project info, so file project info. So for the project information here, I've got a template project. I've put in a subtitle, a composer, an arranger. I've put a copyist as me, and a copyright information and things like that. So I've added in some bits of those information, and I want to position those on the page and decide where they're going to be. So that's where we will use engrave mode. Now you can see we've looked before at the frames. There's now this option in 2.2. This left-hand panel has changed slightly, so you can now click on the frames option instead of the little toggle switch that we used to have. And in here you can then see all of the frames. And you've got some green text frames, and you've got some blue music frames. And if you had any graphics, then you'd have the pinky purple graphics frames as well. To start off with, don't just start editing them. I think that's probably one of the places a lot of people will go wrong, because it is very easy to, you can say, oh, I'd like this box to be slightly shorter, or I'd like to double click in here and change what's in here and make a change. If you do that, so for example, if I select here, maybe select part of this, make it a bit bigger or move it, you'll get this little red triangle over here in the pages option. And that's saying that there is an override to this template. So now the problem is that if you'd now made any changes to the first page of the master template down here, this page that you're looking at will not take any of those changes because you've made an override to those. So try really hard, at least initially, not to do that. I'm going to remove page overrides, so it goes back to the default. So try not to make changes in here. Another one, for example, is that the flow information appears here. There's a new option in Dorico 2.2 to not only show you the project information, but also the flow header information. And you might come into Engrave mode, say, oh, here's this flow information, and just press delete and remove it. Well, don't do it that way because it's going to be very hard to get it back later. If that's the thing that you want to remove, then have a look in the layout options. In the page setup for flows, you can say, do you want to use flow headings or not? And you can say never. So if you don't want those, then just say never. You'll probably also, you see you've got all your layouts down the left here. Because this is layout options, you're only making changes to one layout. So use the select all button at the bottom. Oh, I did make a change, yes. So select all at the bottom, and then you can say actually use show flow headings never and apply that to all of the layouts so that you don't get them on all the layouts. So now it's disappeared, and I've got that bit of space back at the top now because it's not allowing for the flow headers. So now the other template things you will probably want to change are you really want to do in master pages down here. So I'm going to double click on this first master page. So what we've got here, and because I've already added some bars here, in fact, let's add some more as well. So just going to jump to write mode for a second. Let's just stick in 100 bars. So we've got some pages here, okay? So in Engrave mode, the first page, and it's selected up here, is using the first master page. And all of the other pages here, all the subsequent pages, are using the default master page. So when you make changes to things, there are different options, different templates effectively that you can set up for all of those pages. So let's make some changes. So I'll double click here on this first master page template. And here you can see you've got both sides. The reason you've got both sides is that although commonly Dorico actually is using a right-hand page for the first page, you might not always be. Sometimes you might want to use it as a left page. And we'll probably look at a little example of that later. So normally you want these probably to be mirrored or in a lot of cases actually to be the same, and that's why there's a copy option at the top. So I'm going to make some changes to one of these and then apply them to the other side. So for my template, let's say for my templates, the project title can stay there, but I would like to change this project composer and add more information to this. Maybe let's add the arranger and various other things. So now I've clicked on this frame. There are text keyboard shortcuts you can use for these. So now I've happened to have selected the edge of this box here. I can use the arrow keys just to move around the edges of these boxes. So if I want to move the top of this box, for example, then I can move it up towards the top there. If I go to the bottom, I can then move the bottom of it up again if I want to. If I then press Tab, then it will select the whole box, so I can move the whole box around. And to do that, you can move it in little increments with Alt and arrows, and bigger increments with Command and Alt or Control and Alt on PC. And then you can move it in bigger increments. Now, especially when you've got boxes overlaying on top of each other, double clicking, sometimes you might click on the wrong box. So when you've got a box selected like this, just press enter, and that will then edit the text, the information in this box here. So now you can see I'm editing this text in here. So I've got Project Composer, and I'm also going to add into that the token for Project Arranger. In fact, let's say, let's put it's not pirate. And then we'll also say, let's say I saw a template somebody asked me for recently, which had an orchestrator in it. So let's add that one as well. And so I'm going to say project. Now I don't have an orchestrator field, but I do have copyist. So I'll use my copyist field, which is the one from the file project info. And we'll use that one instead. So now I've got Project Composer, Project Arranger, and the Project Copyist in there. What I'm going to do in this case actually is also make a little bit more space and add in a subtitle in here. So actually I'm going to steal this lyricist box for now. You can drag these as well. So here's the little drag handle. I'm going to drag that to the right hand side so that this text here I'm just going to say, actually, I'd like it to be centered. There are also some other options here. So for example, you can say, as well as things like title, there's various other options in here. So if you want to ever go back to default text or anything else, you can change the paragraph styles there. But I'm just going to center this. In fact, I'll leave it at that size for now. And let's say with my project title, I'm also going to make it bold, for example. I could go and change, I probably should change the paragraph style for the title, really. And that would be up here in Engrave paragraph styles. But I'm going to cheat for now and just add it to my, my project like that. So now I've got a project title and I've got project lyricist. It's possible that I might want to move these down a bit so they don't collide with this bit, but for now I'll leave those as they are. And then at the bottom, there's already project copyright on the first page, so I can leave all of those. And you see over here, if I do copy left to right, then I'll get all the same information on this side as well. So if I apply that, press close. So now I've got my options in here. I meant to change that field in the middle. My mistake. I didn't want to use lyricist at all, really. I wanted the subtitle, didn't I? I got part way and then got sidetracked. There we go. So we've got that on both sides. Apply that, close. There we go. So now I've got my template project. So I'm kind of setting up my template option here for where things are going to appear. And again, just because somebody asked me about this before, I'm going to just nip it into this box here. So again, it's difficult to choose all the right ones sometimes. So press enter, and then I'm going to select that one. I'm going to make that one bold as well. So I've decided my composer is going to be more important. So I'll make them bold, then the arranger and the orchestrator. Sometimes it's best to keep people happy. So now I've got my a composer arranged by and my orchestrator in there. So now I've got the first page of the template done. But there's also things you might want to change to the other pages. So for example, at the moment, we have the flow title at the top and the page number on the left. Maybe you want to move some of those things or change some of those things. So let's do this on one of the parts instead. So if we jump to a flute part here, what I'm also going to do is you might sometimes when you're looking at some of these layout type things, especially if you haven't got any music in there yet, you might want to not show multi-bar rests. So I'm going to turn those off. Again, you may want to do that and select all of the layouts to do it. So now I've got my options in here. Now you see I've got flute 1, 2 here, and that's because over here, when I was adding the names, that's what I called it. But this is actually using the layout name tag, not the player's information over here or the instrument labels over here. So you can change this. You can just, for example, say, I would like this to say flutes 1 and 2. And this information over here in the layouts is actually what's used for the layout information here, as well as in this top drop-down option. So you can have a different option over here for the staff labels and the layout names and things over here. So here we are back in Engrave mode. I've just realized I haven't been reading the comments, so bear with me a second. Just have I missed anything? Typing in the the @ symbols. I'm afraid I did just I did just type them quickly. I didn't have a shortcut for that. I'll show you. I'll do it again in a second. So now this, because I'm now in a part, these master pages are different, of course, to the ones that I had for the score. You see there's a default full score and a default part options. So I want to edit now, again, especially for parts, don't edit the part itself because you'll only be making change to that one part. What you want to do is double click on the first option down here, and then you can change all the part information. Now, I probably should have copied this out of the score one, but never mind. So you can select all of these boxes before as you had. But you'll also find if you use the arrow keys, you can select all of the boxes with the arrow keys. So what did we have before? I moved that one to the top, didn't I? I press tab, move to the bottom section there, and make this a bit bigger. Press tab again, so I can press enter and edit what's inside it now. So yes, I am just typing these in. So that's the curly brackets and the @ symbols for the tokens in here. Just zoom in a bit. There we go. Now I'm editing the wrong one. You can then type in what you need in here. So I wanted project range. I really should have copied this out of the other field, but never mind. And then at the end, I had orchestrator. There we go. And there I was using project, yes, so the copyist field. That happened to be bold, and the title might need a bit more space, and we use this field for the lyricist, so let's do the same again. Good recap. So edit the lyricist, put it in the middle, not called lyricist. This, I just want the subtitle. And then I also made the title, I had to make the title bold, didn't I? So let's just do the same in there as well. That's where I should really have done it in the paragraph styles, because it would have been done for me. I would have had to done it once. So there we go. So there's the same options on both. So we'll apply that and close that. So now this part, the first page, has all got all the same options on it. However, I'd like to make some changes to these pages as well. So if you've got lots of music that you're giving to the orchestra, they might not know which piece this is, for example, because it only says flutes 1 and 2, but it doesn't say which piece it is. So now we can go to the default option down here. If I double click on that one, and we can make some changes to this. Now here, for example, one of the interesting ones is that you've got a little page option in here. You can't actually see it because it's a bit small. So let me just expand that a bit. See, there's a little page token here, and that one's left justified. And then over here, we've got one that's right justified. So they're actually two independent options, so that you've got you can make one right justified and one left justified. So the idea here is that for the subsequent pages, where let's say this is page 2 and page 3, you can have the page numbers in the outside edges. Not everybody wants that. Sometimes people want the page numbers maybe to be in the middle or anything else. So let's make some changes to this. So let's say we want to keep the layout name, but we also want to add to it the name of the piece we're doing. So let's say we also want to put in here the, now in my case, it's going to be project title. It could be flow title. If you've got multiple flows in the piece, it may be that you want to use flow title instead. So let's say we've got layout name, project title. Let's say that those want to be on the left, sorry, on the right-hand side. I don't know how big they're going to be, so let's leave them some space. There we go. And then let's say the page number wants to be in the middle instead. So this bit here, and we do have a page number option here as well, so there's a paragraph style for it. I'm just going to stick that in the middle for a second. So let's make the same both sides again. And it may be that you want, layout names to be on outside edges and that sort of thing. You can decide those as well. Also, this was centered, so I don't want it to be centered. Oops, I'm editing the wrong one again. So easily done. So let's say for now, I'm just going to make that one right justified. And I'll do the same both sides and apply that. And it could be you want to add copyright or anything else on the bottom of these other pages. So now the page number will appear in the middle, and you've got the layout, and you've got the title appearing here. It'll appear in that box on the right hand side. So here we go. So yeah, like I said, you could add the copyright on the bottom as well if you wanted to. You could put your page numbers in the bottom right hand corner or bottom outside edges if you want to. You can do whatever you like with those. Now, because you're doing that in Engrave mode and editing these master pages, it now means that you don't have to edit any of the others. So for example, the violin one here, if we turn off their multi-bar rest as well, I should have just done this, shouldn't I? So select everybody and turn off the multi-bar rests, because then you don't have to do it multiple times. There we go. So here's the violin part, and they've now got all of the same options here, page number in the middle, and the and everything else labeled. The cello part, they've got all the same details as well. So that's where the templating type of options really come in useful. Let me just check the comments and see if there's anything that I kind of missed or skipped over on those. Layout titling. Oh, yes, the layout titles. So I kind of skipped over that a little bit when I was talking in setup mode. So in the top corner up here, this is the layout name. So the layout name up here is what appears in setup mode. On the right-hand side, it's these layouts. It's not these instrument names here, which are different again. So yes, that's a useful distinction to know, that you can have different options on both sides, if you like. They're on both sides of setup mode, but it's the layout name that's important when you come to do the parts. Let me just check another question. there's something about flow titles and project titles don't appear on the first page of the score or parts for use with pieces with one title and no movements. Yes, that's kind of what I've got here actually. So in the layout options, what I did is you go to the page setup and flows, and I'm not using flow headings. So the flow headings are where you have a flow specific title, for example. And what Dorico 2.2 now does is it's more likely to be using your project title at the top up here. But then if you have multiple flows, so at the moment I only have one flow, it did say flow one underneath because it was adding that information in. And what I've done in layout options is I've said actually don't use flow headings, so turn those off, so set those to never. For new projects in Dorico 2.2, you'll probably find that that's turned on for all flows. There's also a not for first flow. For example, you might be using the main title here, but then when you get to flow 2, you do want to show a kind of a little subtitle, or a flow title. In this case, it's a flow heading. So there's an option for that as well, where you can say just, don't use it just for the first flow, or you can say all flows. So for example, here, we've now got this flow 1 because I'm using flow headings for all flows, or if I don't want that, I can say never, and it will disappear again. And that's based on the layout that you're in here. So you see down here, it's already chosen cello because that's the one I'm in. So if you want that to apply to all of them, use this select all button, or there is also a button here for select all full score layouts and select all part layouts. You might have wondered, I suppose, why in the score, when I was making changes to the full score, why did I bother in Engrave mode making changes down here to the master pages? And the reason is that although by default you of course have just one score layout, you don't have to just have one score layout. And many people find that in setup mode, they might create more than one full score. So there's an option down here to create a new full score layout as well as part layouts and of course custom layouts. So when you're making changes like this, you don't want to find that you made all the changes to the score and then you've decided you need a condensed score, or you need, a score plus piano reduction, or anything like that, or you don't want to find that you have to make all the changes again. So I really would use the master pages to do that, and certainly for the parts, for any changes you make sure that you make the changes in the parts down here, because then you'll get all the same options throughout. Now, to kind of continue on with some of that, let me just bear with a second. Have I localization for transposing notes? I'm not sure what the question is there, Marco. Can I get back to you on that one? I'm not sure what the question is. Should the empty space be shifted then to account for the lack of text? Which lack of text? That's the flow titles. That happens automatically. Let me just show you. So I think you mean the lack of text here, where the flow title was. So if I say that for the full score, we are going to use the flow titles, then some extra space is added in here and the score drops down slightly. And if I remove that again, I'll try and do this and keep it on the screen. There we go. You'll see that it jumps up and the space disappears. It's because this space here is what's added if you're using a flow. So it'll remove some of that space for you. Transposing instruments should be localized. They should. I thought if you'd set Dorico's language first that they would be, but I might be wrong. I'd have to check on that, and if it's not true, then I'll have to check on that. Sorry, Marco. So the next thing I wanted to look at was kind of a continuation of the music frames. So we've looked at kind of text frame options and things in there. And I suppose the next thing is, once you've set up a template like this, you might want to then use this for other scores. So that's what I was saying earlier. You can go to File, Import Flows, and you can choose another piece. So let's say here's another Dorico project. Open that. It will list any flows. There's only happens to be one in this one, and I'm going to merge with existing players where possible. So it'll look for people who are for players in this movement, in this flow, and see if it can match them to the ones I've got down the left-hand side. Frank's corrected me. Apparently, the instrument names are not translated yet. Apologies. So yes, they should be, but apparently they're not yet. Sorry about that. So I've now imported this one, and where it can, it's matched. So here I've got my flute 1 and 2 labels that I set up before, and I've imported the music into it. So I've now got the music in here. So if you save the file that you were doing as a template, effectively, all of this stuff at the beginning now I don't need. So I can go to setup mode, and I've got a flow here. I can just right click on that, delete flow. There's no music in it. It'll delete all the music. Is that okay? Yeah, that's fine. I like this. And then here we go. I've still got my project title and my subtitle and everything else, but I've imported the music in that I was using now. And this one is also using a shorter score version at the moment, so I've got multiple systems on this page. But you can see now you've set up the template and some of the labelings and things. Now, yes, you may find that if it doesn't match, you may need to copy some of the notes and things over. So, for example, if you had individual horn parts, it might not have matched them and those kind of things. But it's a good way to get you quite a long way there, especially when you've been doing things in Engrave mode and setting up your template and where all of the options that you want to appear. You probably only have to do that once for each template. Save yourself a project file. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's not possible to say add a new template into here in the template section. Yes, we have plans to let you do that, but it's not possible at the moment. So just do file save it as a file, with a name project. If you want to, you can make it read only even, if you want to. But then you can always find that you can come into setup mode, delete any flows that were in there that you don't want anymore, and then you can import another flow into it. So here's the piece finished. So the next option was about flow and frame chains. So for this, what I'm going to do is I've got a piece of music that actually I think we showed back in version 1. Probably 1.0. It feels like a long time ago, 2 years. So in this one, it's a piece of music for 2 pianos. So here in setup mode, we have piano 1 and piano 2. I've actually just imported this from another file. So this is the default layout for the 2 pianos. I noticed actually there are some system breaks already in this one. So it's imported those system and frame breaks as well. But what I actually want to happen on this one is, because it's not actually for 2 pianos, it's for 1 piano, 4 hands. So I want to set this up with Secondo on the left, or piano 2 in this case, and Primo on the right. And I want to set those up, and I'm going to do that using the frame chains. So I'm going to go into Engrave mode here, and you can see all the options that we had before. Now, actually, in this case, because where I want the labels to be and I want the layout names and that kind of thing, I actually probably want a part for this. So I'm going to go to setup mode actually, and I'm going to make a new part layout, so a new instrumental part layout, and I'm going to put both pianos in it. So by default, Dorico has made me a piano 1 layout and a piano 2 layout, but I'm making a new part, which is piano 1 and piano 2. So I can now switch to that and I can view that one. So here we go. So here is the music as it was before. We've got the instrument labels up the top up here, and we've got them at the top of this page up here, and then there's no instrument labels here. So now what we want to do is we want to kind of separate these out. So in Engrave mode, we'll start for the first page, double click on the first master page down here, and we've got now this is where we're going to pay attention to these options in the music frame at the top. We've got MA, which means it's a master music frame, M for master. And that's because we're editing a master page. And I'm going to say, actually, in this case, I'm going to select players, and I'm going to filter. I only want, in this case, piano 2. Normally, I believe piano 2 goes on the left-hand side because they're normally playing things lower down on the piano. So that would be on the left-hand page. And on the right-hand pages, I want to do piano 1. And when you do this, it says piano 1, and you go back, it's piano 1. You say, why is that happening? That's because both of these are both using MA. Look. So what you need to do is unlink them. So I'm going to say, choose this one and say unlink. And it's going to make, in my case, says MJ. And that's probably because I've already been doing some of these today. It doesn't matter that it's J and not B. But just pay attention to which M it is. So I've got MA and I've got MJ. So MJ, I'm going to say, is piano 1 on the right-hand side. And MA, I'm going to make piano 2 Okay, so MA, piano 2, MJ, piano 1. And I'm going to apply that and close. That's all I'm going to do in there. So now on this first page here, I've only got the second piano. And that's the idea. But what I also need to do is go to the default one down here and double click on this one as well. And we said that this one was going to be also, I'm going to use MJ. So I can select that one now. I don't need to press on link. I can select it because it's already been created in this project. So that's already set it. Look, if I just zoom in here, MJ is piano 1 and MA is already piano 2. I haven't had to change anything. It's picked that up automatically. So this is where the flows are working and where frame chains are working. That they're linked so that the MJ that was on this master page layout here is on this one here. It will then look for the next MJ, which also happens to be the right hand side down here. So here you can see it. So I'll press apply, press close. Now, the other things I'll need to do in this project are that these actually, this is a right-hand page. I need it to be a left. So I'm just going to go into here and say I'm going to have a page number change and make the first number page 2. And that will glue those two pages together. I'm also going to say that this page here, which is happens now to be number 3, I'm going to say also needs to use a first because I need this to be a title and I need a title up here as well. So I'm going to right click on this one. I'm going to say insert master page change, use the first layout only from the current page, not from this page forward, only from the current page. So now I've got my title and this is the music for one of the pianos, for piano 2 in my case, and this one is the music from piano 1. And then it carries on. So I've got the same on both sides. So it may also be that you want to change the labelings and things. This is what I said not to do. So I'm just on this particular one layout, in this particular case, I need a manual label. So let's say that one is Secondo and this one is Primo. Okay, so you know and then the music will carry on. Now you'll probably still need to. Dorico won't do anything intelligent with the bars at this point, unfortunately. So this is 14, 15, 16, 17, 19. So it's bar 20. So this 3, 4 here. So you'll still need to do things like add frame breaks. So Shift F to add a frame break, so that you get the page turns in the same places. Because otherwise, if you're both set next to each other, then you'd be able to do all the page changes at the same time. And you'll probably also want to change these labels at the top, possibly. And that's where it may make sense, actually, in your default bit here, it would make sense instead of layout name to actually label these and say which ones you want. So you'd say Secondo on this side and you'd say Primo on the other side so that you get all the correct labeling. But you can see, so when you change, for example, you now still have a single first piano layout here. You still have a second piano layout here. You also still have a full score layout here. And if you're writing the music still, then when you go into galley view, then you'll find that he says failing to switch to galley view. There we go. In galley view, of course, all the music is still there as you'd expect. You can still compose or edit any of this music. It will all play back correctly and line up correctly. But in the new layout you're making, then you have the everything set up. And that's, I just wanted to show you kind of partly how frame chains and things are useful for those, where the music is now saying, here's the first page, and then it's looking for another MA frame. This isn't it, so it jumps a page to here. And this one is using MJ, and it can't then find one until here, so then it carries on the music at this point. So that's where the frame chain comes in and is useful. Let me just check. Would it not make more sense to go into layout options, tell the layout to start on page 2? That way you don't have any overrides to worry about. Yes, good point, Leo. Yes, okay. Leo, would you like to run these sessions now, please? That'll be probably quite handy. Yeah, that should be okay. And there's another question. Would it need to play lines? Sorry, I'm not sure quite what the question is. Would it need to play 2 lines? Maybe keep writing. Tell me more about that one. The other thing I thought was worth looking at as well is that when you're in Engrave mode, you'll notice when you're editing all of these things, of course, that you says MA up here, and these are grayed out, and that's because you can't edit those bits when you're in Engrave mode without going into these master pages. And oh, I see, for playback, where will the green line be? Oh, I see, I understand. Okay, so when you press play, you get a green line here. It's playing the green line in the MA layout, so you won't actually see it in this one here. For playback, what I'd normally recommend is that you do use galley view, because then you're seeing both of them at the same time, and it actually makes sense, if you see what I mean. Because then you just get one big play line, because it's effectively playing like it was a score or anything else at that point, and then things line up a bit more. So then when you want to go from this note here, for example, in this piano part, then you can do that. And of course, if you only want to hear one instrument, then you can just select one instrument and press P, and then it'll only play back that one instrument if that's the one that you want to hear. So yes, so there are options there, and for practice purposes, you can still set up individual layouts if you want to. Now, in this particular file, I've destroyed them already, but you can set up individual layouts if you want to, so that when people are practicing, they can use that. Although I don't know, do you still practice with the knowing where your page turns are with the same music? I'm not sure. Maybe somebody can let me know. So the other thing I just wanted to look at briefly before we go, because I'm rattling on a bit longer than I meant to, was that some of the times that some of these layout things are useful, and I have shown this one before. Here is a full score where in setup mode we'd set up lots and lots of flows, and in these lots and lots of flows we added a scale and an arpeggio. And then I went into the parts for these, and in Engrave mode, I set up just a single page worksheet. Here's a single page worksheet with the layout name, scales and arpeggios. And I set up some, here you can see, look, I set up just some master frames. So there's an MH in this case, and they're linked. So there's two on the same page, number 1 and number 2. You can have them the other way around if you want to. If you want to change the numbering of these and the order, you can do. But I wanted the first one here, the second one here. I'm not filtering anything, and I've done the same both sides just because it's simple and quick to do so, and you don't have to think about it. But then when I came into here, I switched these. I then, after having positioned this in exactly where I wanted it as a master, and setting all of everybody else to use the same one, all of the other parts, I then unlinked it, so it became an L, so a layout music frame. And now I do have options here where I can filter what I want to show. So I can say, actually, I'm showing the flute in here, but I only want to show the particular flow of the scale of F. And because they're two linked, because this is LC and this is LC, then they both update at the same time. So this is a case where it's useful sometimes in individual cases for things like worksheets to use these layout frames instead. So now when I go to the alto saxophone, this one says LC, but because it's an individual thing on this part, I can also say I'd like C sharp in this one. So here's C sharp, but the flute one back here is still on F. So I can make individual worksheets and change them at any point using the same effectively kind of templated design. Change the graphic, but pop in whichever music you want to, and the music is flowing from this box into this box. So it's just a different, very different case. But I just wanted to show the linking here, where you've got the frame chain and you're using a layout one instead. So just a very quick example of those. If you'd like to know more about worksheet type things, then either get in touch. Maybe we could do one of these in one of these sessions. There is also one on the blog. If you have a look for the Getting Started guide on the blog, which is blog.dorico.com, then there's a couple of worksheets on there for getting started, and one of them is about creating worksheets and things as well. So you can have a look at those. So I think I should probably stop for today. So the next session will be in January, of course. So happy Christmas and all that, and happy New Year. Or was it Merry New Year? The next session will probably be the 30th of January, due to NAMM also being towards the end of January. So if you're going to NAMM, then come and say hi. We'll be in the Steinberg Ballroom. It's not really called that, but it's the ballroom in the Marriott Hotel, just off where the Yamaha big ballroom is. There's then attached to that, there's a Steinberg section. So come and say hello. I'll be there. I think Daniel will be there. And you come and say hello if you're going to be at NAM, which is in LA, for anybody who doesn't know. Also, if you haven't seen it already, watch the Dorico Christmas video. There's a Dorico Christmas video on our YouTube channel, which Anthony and his family have done. So have a look at that one. So youtube.com/Dorico, which is probably where you came to watch this video too. Yes, have a good Christmas. I'll see you next year. I will just check all the comments and things, of course, just to make sure. So let me just see if there's anything else that I've missed. Importing music XML files, and it works perfectly, but the piece has multiple movements. So when you import a music XML file, it'll import as a new flow. So if your current music XML file all imports as one item, then you might want to split it up, and there's an option to do that. Or if you've already got multiple pieces, then you can import multiple XML files, and they'll all become individual flows. So just for example, have I got anything that I was using? No, not yet. I suppose this kind of thing. So if you've got a piece and it's kind of yes, as somebody's just said, it's Paul. You can use a split flow. So when you're in write mode, let's say this note here at this point should have been the beginning of a new piece at this point. So I'm presuming you've imported a music XML file which actually contains multiple movements, but because any other software you use doesn't do movements as such, it's imported as one big file. So choose the note at the beginning of the new movement, and you can use write, and there's a split flow option, and that will then divide the music at that point. And in setup mode, you will get two flows. So you can then set everything up and put the proper titles in and those kind of things. So hopefully, Christian, that will help from that front. Are there any other questions I missed? No, I don't think so. So thank you for all the people who watch live. As always, the email address is discoverdorico@steinberg.de, discoverdorico, all one word, @steinberg.de. The next session will be in January. This is all recorded, so it's available on the YouTube channel to watch whenever you like. And thank you for watching.